Cup around the 16 and 45. So testing, 1, 2, 3, standard comms, bit more exciting for comms, very excited comms.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. We're live at the Lakeside Stadium.
Brennan. Number 9, Gustav Moller. Number 21, Ross the Boss Archibald. Number 22, Max Mikola. Number 23, Morgan Evans. Number 27, Jack Painter Andrews. And number 99, Jack Pope. On the bench for South Melbourne FC, number 2, Zach Spiteri. Number 6, Lucas Inglese. Number 10, George Mells. Number 11, Robert Harding. Number 20, Jonathan Pitulas. And number 88, Charlie Leach.
On a rather chilly Monday evening by Melbourne's Albert Park Lake to Lakeside Stadium. Back in action after its annual sabbatical during the Australian F1 Grand Prix for what is the final game of the 8th round of the NPL Men's Victoria season, with South Melbourne getting set to host Dandenong City. The cliche goes that there's no place like home, and for a South unit winless in their last 5, they will certainly be hoping that that will be the case this evening. Esteban Quintas' side's last win in league play came at this venue all the way back in round 2, when they defeated bitter foes Melbourne Knights to make it 2 wins on the bounce to start the season. But since then, they're yet to record a win, losing 3 times and drawing twice to commence a slide down the ladder. Lose tonight, and the 2024 premiers will find themselves sitting in the relegation zone with just under a third of the season played. Not the type of form that's considered acceptable at Hellas at the best of times, let alone when they're set to be one of the foundation sides in this year's Australian Championship. Standing in their way tonight is a Dandenong City side that enters this evening contest in that very relegation zone, but should they claim a scalp tonight, will vault themselves into 7th. And perhaps auguring well for Nick Tolios' side, they come into tonight's fixture as something of road warriors, undefeated in their previous 3 games away from Frank Holohan's soccer complex, and having beaten South Melbourne the last time these 2 sides met here back in 2024. My name is Joey Lynch, and it is an absolute pleasure to have your company on the NPL Victoria YouTube page tonight, no matter where you happen to be it in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, or indeed anywhere around the world. And I am joined this evening by Ethan Rigg. Ethan, it's still, we'll call it relatively early doors in the campaign. We're not yet at the halfway mark. We're maybe getting away from that point very soon, but nonetheless, high stakes associated with this game this evening.
Good evening, Joey, and good evening to everybody watching. It certainly is. And while the Formula One has left town, South Melbourne would wish to return to home closer to pole position than they find themselves. Currently scrapping at the back of the grid, and like you said, although it is early doors, you sense tonight poses a crossroad. They have a challenge in their face of a side who have been excellent on the road so far in the month of March. And for South Melbourne, you sense that tonight is a must.
Indeed, it is the hosts getting us underway here. They will be kicking from right to left of your screen in this opening stanza, wearing their very familiar, very famous all-blue strips. Dandenong City on the road, wearing their all-white strips, kicking from left to right of your screen in this opening stanza. We'll take you through the teams in a moment, but first, it's Atherinos trying to get something going for the visitors, and could we see an early chance? It's going to be blocked away there by Morgan Evans, and the ball will be sent out into touch. Javier Diaz-Lopez in goal for South Melbourne. In front of him, Jordan Lampard, Marko Jankovic, the skipper, Jake Marshall, Andy Brennan, Gustav Moller up top, Ross Archibald, Max Mikola, Morgan Evans, Jack Painter-Andrews and Jack Pope. As South Melbourne will have themselves a throw-in on their defensive right flank. For the hosts, for the visitors I should say, they got Pierce Clark in goal. In front of him, Corey Sewell, Jack Webster, Thomas Giannakopoulos, Jamie Latham, Valley Chesnick, Gaku Inaba, Danny Kim, Tim Atherinos, Will Bauer and Jackson Leno. So no changes to the Dandenong City side that lost 2-0 against Heidelberg United last week at home. South Melbourne, meanwhile, have made 1 change. Painter-Andrews comes back into the 11. He missed last week. And in his place, Robert Harding moves to the bench. No Kenny Athew on the bench for Dandenong City. After coming on as a substitute against Heidelberg last week, he's succumbed to a knock and will miss this fixture, albeit early indications are that it's not a serious one for the King. As we now see Kim on the ball. Some decent forays forward early doors by Dandy City. So move the ball onto that left lane. Nick Tolios' side, especially when they do get to play on carpets like at Lakeside Stadium, will try to retain possession. Move the play around. Webster now, the veteran. With Inaba, and Giannakopoulos is in there. 6 by number, 6 by position. Sewell presents an option. Instead, the ball is going to be played to Latham, and he lays it off for Chesnick. Dandenong City again trying to work their way in, and they've somewhat found an angle. The ball in, and it's turned around the corner. And some early work to do there for Javier Diaz-Lopez, stopping Atherinos.
It was a wonderful move from Dandenong City. They worked it beautifully down the right-hand side. Saul continued his run, which was the right thing to do. In the end, the shot was a little bit tamed, but not a good sign for Javi Diaz-Lopez, already being called into early action. And you would sense already that City have made the brighter start.
They have come to play. They will know that there will be pressure on the hosts to not fall into that relegation zone. The season commencing, as it always does for South Melbourne, with a lot of optimism and even more expectation. But now, here comes South Melbourne again. Chesnick trying to steal his way in. Has his shot blocked away. Still looking for his first goal on the campaign. He's won his side a corner.
You can sense as well from the early knockings that Dandenong City's recent good away form is showing. They seem very calm and confident in possession. They've settled nicely into their shape and they're causing South Melbourne some early issues. You could also maybe just feel maybe a little bit of caginess around this south side, understanding the importance of tonight's match.
Well, they've got a set-piece opportunity now. The tall timber comes up from the back line. The arms go up, big stretch, and then the ball is sent in. Chaos in the box, players are falling over. Nothing is called, and South Melbourne will just clear it away out of their half and out for a throw-in. Our referee tonight, Jock Quartermain, assisted by Thomas Rushton and Ben Howell. Marcus Lucaris is the fourth official, taking advantage of his status between the two benches to wear himself a nice little windbreaker. As mentioned, not the coldest conditions we will get this NPL Men's Victoria season, but after some rather warm conditions throughout the month of March, it is a bracing night here at Albert Park Lake. Jankovic gets it clear, only as far as Jackson Leno, who lays it off to Inaba. Clark getting a touch. Webster didn't like what he saw in front of him. Defensive shape of South Melbourne. Nicola coming up to turn it into a 4-4-2 out of possession, applying the press. Now it turns into a back five. And Clark's ball, well intended for Corey Sewell, flies over his head and South can have the ball.
You can already see as well that Dandenong City, when they get possession and when they finally get their shape right, those two fullbacks push on straight away, looking to create those early overloads and channels for them to knock the ball into. It's something that South Melbourne will need to be wary of as this game progresses on.
It was an awkward bouncing ball and he had players swarming on both sides. Max Mikula was the closest as he just hoofs it over his head. The resulting attempt to chase it down. Free kick is found for Hajduk. So South Melbourne will again get set up in their defensive shape. So we've got a bunch of different looks from Esteban Quintas' side out of possession already in this game. Dandy City content to look to build out gradually from the back once more. They're going to play through the South Melbourne pressure on that occasion. Switch of play for Corey Sewell. It's going to be headed on. Chesnick will give chase. Jankovic had a line on it. And the ball has stayed in. Valley Chesnick. One at Atharinos just at the top of the penalty box. Blocked away, but it will be a second corner for Dandy City.
It's a great couple of early wins in those 50-50s for Dandy City. You see the desire of not only Chesnick but Corey Sewell as well. It's a smashing switch to find him. And it's just that tenacity and that proactive play to win that flick on and get them in down the line that now presents them another opportunity to maybe lay siege to this South Melbourne defence.
I have to correct myself. It's a throw in rather than a corner. Dandy City work the ball out. Then the ball's lofted in, speculatory in nature. Seized upon once more, but the ball, well, Giannakopoulos. See the thinking in his eyes, but execution had to be perfect from that position with the defenders in front of him, and instead it's going to go over the crossbar.
And he had more time than he realised, and even though it would have taken a special effort, you'd expect him to at least test the goalkeeper just to see if any of the late runners wanted to gamble on the possibility of a spill from Javi Lopez. But once again, it's Dandenong City doing all the attacking at the moment, and you see that South Melbourne not frustrated yet. but they will want to get up the field as soon as possible.
That ball is knocked in behind. Players giving chase. In the end, discretion, the better part of valour from Jake Marshall, the former gold medal winner. He just puts it out into touch. Sewell's throw in. Well, he was the intended recipient of the pass back. Execution lacking there, and then South Melbourne's going to steal a few more metres. Referee Jock Quartermain distracted by maybe a bit of the afters on the pitch. Didn't send them backwards. And then Kim's pass just over the head of Will Bauer, its intended recipient. South will have a throw in, their defensive right flank, to be taken by Morgan Evans. Long throw in, lofted forward. A couple of headers. South eventually coming down with it. Mikla, the intended recipient, working against Jackson Lino. Bodies flying around. It's played out here to Lampard on the left. Dandy City getting across. Brennan. Good effort to get it to Lampard. Ball skied up. Lino underneath. It's going to fall invitingly, and the shot's going to be cleared away. Clark not called into action for Dandy City, but South Melbourne's first real sight of the goals and threatening moment.
It's so much better from South Melbourne. It's the first time they've been able to work a little bit of space. Lovely combination between Brennan and Lampard, and it's a teasing ball in. The big problem with the City clearance there was due to that wind. It swirled around in the area, and the first time they didn't clear their lines, it presented an opportunity for South Melbourne to just get a look in a dangerous area, and their blushes might have been spared on that occasion.
South coming forward once more. Andy Brennan on the ball. Well, that ball's going to get underneath the feet of Jankovic, but Lopez aware of the danger. The prohibitive favourite for NPL Men's Victoria Goalkeeper of the Year at the start of every campaign. Boy, did they miss him against Preston Lions earlier in the season. Getting injured in the defeat to St Albans the game prior to that. Another ball in behind. I think Chestnut has stolen a march. Got Atharinos waiting in the middle. He made a darting run to the near post that was ignored. Chestnut keeping the ball, and instead Corey Sewell was going to try his luck from the top of the box, but blocked away.
It's wonderful from Chestnut to get in behind. He gets goal side of Lampard, and he catches him napping. Works himself a yard with a lovely bit of footwork. The lay back to Corey Sewell maybe just didn't have too much on it. It did invite him to hit first time, but in the end, South Melbourne were able to get bodies behind. But the warning signs are there down this right-hand side. You can sense that City realise the joy that they're getting, and they're looking to put Lampard in particular under a lot of pressure.
Lampard does so love to get forward with those marauding runs as well. Not only do you put him under pressure defensively by coming down his flank, but you also neutralise at least some of the attacking play that he brings to this South Melbourne side. As Gustav Moller couldn't bring that one in under control. 2 goals on the season for the Big Dane, given the unenviable task of replacing Harrison Sawyer at the tip of South Melbourne's spear. Great to see Big H getting on the score sheet for MacArthur over the weekend. His first goals in the A-League men. Chesnick now on that right flank, looking for the byline, lofted across, goes over the head of everybody. Bauer couldn't run it down. Giannakopoulos taking it out to that left flank, and he's eventually seen over the touchline.
You can feel the frustration and the angst in this place at the moment. South Melbourne haven't made the fastest of starts. You can see it out on the pitch. They're cagey, and it's creating a very cagey atmosphere, and it's feeding Dandenong City to become bolder in their attacks. They work it so well that they open up pockets of space in between the lines, and all of a sudden South Melbourne then find themselves exposed. Another ball they've had to defend in. Chestnick's seen plenty of it early. It was a teasing one to the back stick. Just had too much on it.
Lampard now. Back to his captain, Austin Marshall. Here comes the press in the form of Latham. Early ball out. Giannakopoulos got a boot on it, but that will send it straight into touch for a South Melbourne throw-in, which they'll attempt to take quickly, but having stolen a few metres prior to it, a retake will be ordered. Tolios, I think, was calling for a foul throw that would have given his side possession. Back at his old stomping grounds, Nick Tolios, of course, formerly played at South Melbourne back in the NSL days, after he left Carlton till the closure of that league. Game of head tennis breaks out. Will spill out to Lampard. It's got Andy Brennan instead. Well, the ball will just slice away from him. Tend to think that that ball was intended for Gustav Mahler, but end result is a goal kick.
If it was a cross, it was certainly mishit. But South Melbourne now starting to win those second balls. It's the first occasion we've seen that, and they finally are able to work it wide once more. It seems like Lampard will be the avenue of a lot of these balls in, looking for a late run from Muller. He wasn't able to find him on this occasion, but after a shaky opening few minutes, you sense perhaps that South Melbourne may finally be starting to grow into it.
The players fly. Falls down eventually for Morgan Evans to send clear. Lino attempting to send it right back. Pope in there as well. Chesnick laying it off. Giannakopoulos keeping the play moving. Latham out there on the right flank for Atherinos. Good first touch to send it back central. Chesnick forced wide, falls over of his own volition, and it will be a goal kick.
It's a good rotation between Chesnick and Atherinos, though. You see Chesnick drift inside. Atherinos then comes out to the right to occupy that space, and it's a brilliant ball to find him in the end. It's unlucky for Chesnick to stumble over his own feet, as it could create so many more opportunities for Dandenong City at the moment. The South Melbourne defence, although further up the pitch they seem to be growing into it, they still seem a little bit nervy and a bit uncertain when coming for it in these swirling conditions.
Steve Erling Chesnick seems to have certainly come to Lakeside Stadium to play. Has his tail up. There he is again, looking for... Well, Webster went on a bit of an adventure from his centre-back position. He's going to have to get back, the veteran. And across to Evans, combining with Archibald. South knocking the ball about. You can see the Dandy City press coming up to make them earn any progression up the park. Lampard, clever ball for Brennan, has some space to work into. Andy Brennan cutting back onto his right foot. Half-hearted appeals for a penalty for handball, waved away quickly. Archibald couldn't come up with it. Giannakopoulos to Lino, Atherinos trying to lace it in behind for Latham. Can he take it round Lopez before the Spaniard arrives? No, he can't. Now Clark under a bit of pressure from Brennan. Mola took out his man, and that will be a free kick.
He's just a bit over-enthusiastic to continue on with the press. It's Gustav Mola. But it's so much better from South Melbourne when they do press high. Dandenong City tested for the first time when it comes to playing out, and they got away with it on this occasion. If it wasn't for a slight stumble from Giannakopoulos, and then invited South to press further, but when it broke to Andy Brennan, he maybe could have gone down the touchline and tried to fashion a ball back into the box. But you sense with one side going down the right, South are looking to counter down the left as often as possible.
Clark puts all of his boot through that one, and the end result is that it's going to bounce out for what I think was a goal kick in the end. So a bit of a waste of possession there for Dandenong City. As we approach the 20-minute mark here at Lakeside Stadium. If you are just joining us, the scores remain 0-0. Goal kick now for South Melbourne. This one also sent long. Who can win the second ball? In the end, no need to for South Melbourne as it bounces out for a throw-in. Morgan Evans with the resumption. And No, couldn't keep it in. Jack Painter-Andrews wants to take it quickly and does. Andy Brennan operating out there in tight areas, trying to find a teammate. At least will earn a throw-in. And here we go, these long throw-ins. Our first of the inning, where you can see Max Mikkola jogging across. Doesn't have the gloves on tonight, the Queenslander. But we all know what's about to come. South Melbourne, Dandenong City, us in our commentary position at you at home. A Max Mikkola, a long throw-in. It's effectively a corner. The players fly. Clark gets 2 hands on it. Chesnick keeps it moving. Atherinos, bit of tunnelling there underneath Pope, and that will give away a free kick. But there we go, Ethan. Our first Mikkola long bomb of the night.
And it was right on the money as well, wasn't it? Just in front of the keeper. It was judged well in the end by Dandenong City, who were able to clear it, but especially in these conditions at the moment, that's where South Melbourne can pose such a threat with that X factor of the long throw-in from Mikkola. And you can sense as well, as this game goes on, it will be something they will look to utilise even more, given that they'll be going with the breeze in the second half.
An opportunity there for the big Dane to try to get in behind. Yeah, maybe a bit of the veteran instincts of Jake Webster, sending it out of bounds via his shins. South able to erect a defensive cordon around the retake. Just thrown down the touch line. Latham flicks it on. Painter-Andrews lofting it over the top. Nobody in blue there to meet it. Giannakopoulos. Dandenong City turning defence into attack. Marauding run through the middle of the park before it's laid off. Atherinos from range into the bottom corner. Picks it out with a plum. And Dandenong City's strong start is rewarded.
It's a brilliant hit. And it's been coming. Dandenong City have started the better of the two sides. It was a brilliant run to carve the South Melbourne midfield and defence open. And then it is the most piercing of hits from Atherinos into the bottom corner. Very little Lopez can do. And for South Melbourne, it will all be about how they can respond now, as it is a truly brilliant goal to give Dandenong City an advantage that they certainly deserve.
Surging run forward. You can see the effects that they have. The South defence collapsing, affording Tim Atherinos the opportunity to shoot. It's his first of the campaign. What is his 5th start? Has an assist against Preston back in round 2, but now he's got himself on the score sheet. Spent some time with South Melbourne in his youth, I believe. Well, it's the likes of Nunawading and South Springvale. Signed from the youth ranks of Melbourne Victory last season. And now, well, on the live ladder, he has Dandy City up to 7th and South Melbourne in the relegation zone. South looking for the immediate response, however. It's going to take a desperate clearance from Giannakopoulos to just see the ball away.
Beautiful ball in. And it's so dangerous. It's right into that corridor. And you can see that Pierce Clark came and he didn't quite get there. And all of a sudden, South Melbourne, first to the second ball, had an opportunity to maybe work something for Gustav Muller, but to no avail.
Here we go. Max Mikkola once more. Get to the top of the 6-yard box. Archibald was there. Couldn't get a clean head on it. Dandenong City players bumping into each other as they attempt to clear. Meant that neither could get a proper touch on it, but won't cost them much, as the ball will eventually bounce out, last off a South player. Kim boots it forward, and well, Latham thought he had stolen a march before slicing a shot, but it was offside, so it'll count for naught.
Just a fraction too early. But you can see once again for Dandenong City, those second balls are so crucial. You can see the desire and that hunger to go out and put themselves on it first, and it's made the difference so far. It's why they're a goal in front, and even trying to steal a yard, it shows the confidence that they've come here with and the confidence that opening goal has given them.
All up for grabs near the touchline. Last off Lampard. He battled with Corey Sewell. All up for grabs. Therinos couldn't come down with it. Pope. And it'll be a South Melbourne ball.
Pope did very well. He was put under immediate pressure after a little bit of pinball, but he took the chance to try and play it first time. He rode the contact. He could have panicked very easily and backed out, and it's what South Melbourne need more of. They need to take some more of the initiative at the moment. After going a goal down and after having a couple of chances, they've let Dandy City very comfortably shift back into their defensive shape and start to retake control.
Ball whacked off Max Mikkola. Corey Sewell wins his side a goal kick. 25 minutes gone in this one. Sima Therinos putting Dandenong City ahead. South Melbourne needing to find a response. Now needing to find a minimum of 2 goals if they are to snap what is a 5-game winless run, threatening to become 6th. Chesnick laying the ball off. South trying to lock it in. Ball intended for Corey Sewell. There from Will Bauer. Quite come off. The visitors retain possession. Danny Kim scanning. Going across to Jackson Leno. Webster. Kim. All the way back to Inaba. Switch of play. The ball that played central intended for Bauer. Too far away from him. Dandy City. Sustained period of possession. Sustains possession. Have it again. Well, up for grabs in the middle of the park. Pope did well not to give away the free kick and then was urging his teammates to win the ball back as it became up for grabs. Well, Jankovic got it caught up underneath him. Chesnick on it in a flash, but then his attempt to play the early cross in the direction of Latham doesn't come off. And can South Melbourne springboard on it? Hit them on the counter press. Not so, but they'll retain possession and come forward again. Nice turn there. And the ball across the park in the direction of Jack Painter-Andrews. Andy Brennan has had a few good touches tonight for South Melbourne. Now the ball played into the box. Brennan is there contesting it. Can't win it. Pope back to Jankovic. Marshall. Across to Evans. Waller couldn't turn it around the corner, and instead he's going to take out, I think it's Inaba with a high boot. Does he earn himself a caution? Dandenong City players none too pleased with it. Don't even need to tell you that Nick Tolios isn't too pleased with it. Never one to refrain from sharing his opinions, but it looks like the big South Melbourne... No, the big South Melbourne number 9 has gone into the book.
He was just, once again, a bit over-enthusiastic, wasn't he? Gustav Muller. And it's indicative of the frustration in this place at the moment, as South Melbourne haven't really had a lot of looks. Dandenong City have been able to play as they please. They've kept possession nicely. The combinations have been good. Especially Chesnick and Atharinos have been at the heart of everything that they've looked to do so far, and at the heart of everything good that they've been able to pull off. But Gustav Muller now walking the tightrope, having been booked inside the first half hour. And they will need to keep a calm on things. He'll need to keep a lid on things if South aren't to find themselves a man down.
Both sides staging a mini drinks break there as we await for play to resume. Always interesting to see who the coaches go to in that situation. Esteban Quintas in the South bench having a little chat with Ross Archibald. Andy Brennan was in the vicinity as well. For Nick Tolios, it was a one-on-one conversation between himself and Corey Sewell. So Esteban Quintas primarily having a chat with his six, his defensive marshal there in front of the back four, and Nick Tolios chatting with a man who's been part of that drive up the right flank across this opening 29 minutes. A couple of Dandy City players get in their own way again. South trying to take advantage through Painter Andrews. He just collided with Lino, lost the battle of strength, but at least wins his side a throw in. Here we go. Another opportunity for South to hurl this one into the penalty area. Max Mikkola hasn't gone across to take it. It's Painter Andrews. Not quite the lift on it, but it's going to come to the back post, and then no! Somehow it was Jankovic arriving to drive it back inside. I think it was Archibald that then, not sure how much he knew about it, sent it on goal, but Pierce Clark just able to recover and grab it before it crossed the goal line.
They got away with one, Dandenong City. Jankovic completely unmarked at the back post. He made a good run. He did the right thing in centering it as well for Archibald. And you're right, he didn't know anything about it. He got as much of a touch as he could and tried to divert it goalwards. And in fairness to Pierce Clark, he could have panicked in that situation, but he kept his cool, kept his calm, and kept Dandenong City in the lead.
A reiteration of South Melbourne's danger from those long throw-ins. As we have become very familiar with over the past few years, it has looked their most likely avenue to goal early on in this one. Well, Bauer on the left for Dandy City. Lino had come forward. Pass couldn't find him. Giannakopoulos trying to keep play alive for his side, combining with Bauer. Ball will roll out into touch. Evans to take the throw in just in front of his bench. Esteban Quintas behind him, barking some instructions. Some metres gained by South Melbourne with the throw in, but at the cost of possession lost. Jackson Lino now with the ball in his hands in front of his dugout. All up for grabs. It's knocked forward in the Latham direction for Dandy City. Pope knocked it clear, and then the ball sent back to Lopez. Jankovic spearing the ball forward. Mikkola first time around the corner. Lampard, Brennan. South Melbourne unable to find a way through, so they'll reset. Trying to drag Dandenong City out of their shape. Lampard. Pope. It's time to turn. Jankovic back to Lopez. Brennan. Headed on for Gustav Mahler. He's attempted to knock it back down though, straight to the opposition. Not too costly nonetheless as South come up with it again. Proper extended period of possession for them. Brennan, that left flank, early ball in. Mahler was sliding, knocked away before it could get to him. Sewell under pressure. Lampard and Brennan in there. They're rewarded for their defensive work. And here we go now from our broadcast position here at Lakeside Stadium, the city side of the grounds. Max Mikkola prepares to hurl it in once more. Hurled it in the Danes' direction. Archibald couldn't feast on the scraps. Dandy City looking to break quickly. They do have some numbers forward. Chesnick on his own on this right flank. Who's waiting in the box, or is he going to go himself? Valley Chesnick forced wide, and it's a strong, well-timed sliding challenge. Had to be. And it was. Game maybe opening up in these last few exchanges.
It's a brilliant challenge from Pope. He gets that perfectly. Chesnick broke away. And this is much better from South Melbourne. They've finally been able to have some sustained possession and pressure. And that's where they're so dangerous. That ball from Jankovic, where they're able to split the lines, get it wide to Brennan, who's then able to work with Lampard and with Mikkola as well. They create so much joy, and they push Dandy City back, who up until this point have been relatively comfortable to step higher. And you see it creates a bit of uncertainty. Corey Sewell taking a loose touch and getting caught. And now all of a sudden, despite a rocky start and being a goal down, South may be finally looking to mount a charge before half-time.
Stoppage of play here. Looks like Gustav Mahler might have come a cropper down in his haunches up front. Referee Jock Quartermain just causing for a pause in play so the big Dane can go off and receive some treatment. Some claret on him. What's the go here? Don't see South Melbourne preparing a substitute. Get you to keep an eye on that one for me, Ethan, as we'll stick with play. Ball knocked central by Giannakopoulos. Couldn't find a teammate. Shot of Jankovic. Looks like he's heading down the tunnel. We'll come to you, Ethan, when we get a break in play. All right, Ethan, what was happening down there? Is he bleeding? What's going on?
It doesn't look like he's bleeding. It looks like in that last contest, he landed very awkwardly.
Oh, we're going to get a sub. So the Danes' night is over, and Robert Harding will enter the fray. What do you think happened there?
Substitution for South Melbourne FC, coming off number 9, Gustav Mahler, coming on number 11, Robert Harding.
I think he landed awkwardly, Gustav Mahler, in that last challenge that he went up for. It seems like they're not taking any risks with the big Dane. I reckon they brought him over to Esteban Quintas to have a chat.
Oh, and then almost. Something from near nothing flashing across the face of goal there from Bauer. And in a blink of an eye, South almost went from losing their starting striker to falling into a 2-0 deficit. See now, with just about 8 minutes of regulation remaining in this opening stanza, what either of these two sides can muster, and then early off the post, back into play. It is all happening at Lakeside. As Brennan's effort isn't claimed in time, deflecting. Wow. By the skin of their teeth, South survive going into a deficit, and then from perhaps an even thinner veneer of teeth, Dandy City's lead remains intact.
It was nearly the dream way to mark his introduction to the game for Harding. He took that beautifully. The technique to take it on the turn, it was a half chance that nearly turned into an equaliser. It was a brilliant ball initially by Andy Brennan, just asking somebody to gamble and go across that penalty area. They're able to keep it alive and hook it back in towards the penalty spot. South Melbourne creating a couple of chances and desperately unlucky.
Mikola, long throw in, big pack forms, defensive header and subsequent clearance. Harding, he hasn't scored yet this season, got 2 in 7 games the last campaign after joining mid-season from Manningham United. Would have been a spectacular way to open the account for 2025. So one does wonder how his addition will maybe change what South Melbourne do in attack. Not blessed with the height and stature and frame of Gustav Mahler. Does that force a recalibration? Meanwhile though, South having to defend Chesnick again, Lampard doing well. Ball hoofed long, Archibald and Sewell fly. Last off the Dandenong City right back. Lampard, back to Jankovic, Brennan. Stood up, still able to knock the ball centrally. Archibald kept it along the turf. And Mikola and Harding there, neither could come up with it. Bauer for Dandenong City. Got Atherinos and Latham ahead of him. Giannakopoulos 2. Atherinos. Jackson Lino. Latham. Bauer at the top of the box, as was Giannakopoulos. Couldn't find an angle to knock something in. Forced backwards. Inaba. Forced to just scramble to retain possession slightly, Dandenong City. Chesnick. Inaba. Giannakopoulos dropping. See, sending it to Kim, then Sewell. Atherinos, Travella pass. Bauer. Bounce is favourable to him. Crashing forward, laying it off for Latham. Retains his feet but not the ball.
Atherinos has been brilliant. He's picking up those spaces in between the lines and causing South Melbourne all sorts of issues. And just a small change in terms of Dandenong City's build-up at the moment. The last couple of times they've looked to venture forward, Corey Sewell, as you see him there, has inverted inside. And instead of having a third back or having the full-back go higher, he's now dropped in to create an overload in the middle of the park.
See that conversation that he was having with Nick Tolios during the break. Maybe that was the subject of their discussions. Apologies for giving the game away, Nick. Jackson Lino, from his position at left back, has come forward to take this throw in. Latham. Dandy City going to be forced all the way back to Clark. He knocks it forward, and now Lino in behind. Got Atherinos centrally. If you can pick him out, was the intended recipient. Marshall getting in the road, clearing the ball away.
Great ball from Clark to pick Lino, who times his run perfectly. So easily could have gone early and been offside. But it's a different dynamic to the way that Dandy City have wanted to go forward. You've seen them keep the ball nicely and work it tidily through the areas, go through their combinations. But they also have that other element now where they're able to go long.
Lino here, sorry, trying to bust in. Sorry to interrupt you.
At that time, it nearly fashioned an opportunity for them, but it's a difference in attack now that South Melbourne have to adjust to. In terms of Dandenong City going long, looking to draw that South defence in with that higher press, exploit the space in behind through the channels.
Lampard lofts it forward. Brennan can't bring it down. That means that Webster's going to be able to come across and put it out. Lofted forward, Harding brings it down, the substitute. Wadden Mikola gets the rebound, thought about the shot, found Brennan instead. Lampard, South nibbling around the edges. Can they take a bite? Brennan again, high ball in towards the back post. Dandy City had the numbers. Kim, his clearing header, only goes as far as Lampard. Archibald unable to knock it around the corner. Giannakopoulos knocking it forward. Maybe the transition is on. Atherinos, 1 goal already to his name. Giannakopoulos turns. Sewell. Corey Sewell has it blocked. And it's a comfortable collection for Lopez.
It's really good from Dandenong City on the break once again. With South Melbourne, when in possession now, they've dropped into a back three, looking to create more overloads. It was taken down beautifully by Harding to find Andy Brennan. They just can't work the angle to get a clear sight at goal at the moment. City have been good at shutting it down, and they're nearly going on the break. Giannakopoulos does excellently to keep that going and find Corey Sewell. He could have had a go himself, but instead it doesn't come to anything. But once more, now happy to sit in, and they look like they may be dangerous for getting a second goal and doubling their advantage before half-time on the break.
Well, the 45 minutes of this opening half has almost expired. We will see fourth official Marcus Lucaris, what he signals. It will be 2 minutes.
The fourth official has indicated there will be 2 minutes of added time.
As the ground announcer reiterates here. So 120 seconds of football remaining for one of these sides to do something. A lot of air underneath that clearance. Harbour got a head on it. Archibald for South Melbourne, knocking it out wide. High ball in, Harding is there. Clark flew, but he couldn't get there. Off the bench, onto the score sheet. Robert Harding ties this game up. First half stoppage time.
It was a brilliant header and a great ball to find him. And for South Melbourne, it's been coming, especially for Harding. He's looked lively since coming on. Had a couple of lovely touches. Looked to be creative and a menace for this Dandenong City defence. He takes a gamble. He backs himself to get there ahead of Pierce Clark. Times the leap to perfection. It's a beautiful header. And having started slowly, you would have to say that just before the break, they've warranted an equaliser.
There we go, having been hemmed in early, South Melbourne able to find a way back and surely ensure that they will enter the main break in a state of parity with the visiting Dandenong Thunder. Or perhaps they'll fancy a quick-fire double in the lead. Painter Andrews ball in, and Harbour clearing it away. Latham couldn't bring it down. South Melbourne full of beans. Trying to double their money. High ball in. Harding flew. Couldn't get there. Brennan! Across the face. The Clarendon corner. Thought it was in. Instead, South agonisingly close to a second.
And he catches it sweet. Andy Brennan, he does the right thing in trying to slice it across the goalkeeper, who's scrambling. Would have been beaten if it was on target, but South Melbourne really coming to life at the end of the first half. Ended it in a flurry and nearly with the lead.
Half-time here at Lakeside Stadium in this NPL Victoria Round 8 clash. It is South Melbourne 1, Dandenong City 1.
I'll let the ground announcer perform the perfunctories. Yes, indeed, we are tied up here at half-time of this round 8 NPL Men's Victoria contest. Tim Atharinos giving Dandenong City the lead. Only 4 on the stroke of half-time. Robert Harding to tie things up for South Melbourne. Ethan, if you are the coaches right now, Esteban Quintas the... Find out in about 15 minutes time. You'll have the countdown clock for company until then, but be sure to join us on the other side.
Melbourne BMW, Lovelight, Dome Property Group, Anizakis Group, KUD, Big and Scott, AA Holdings, HD Corporate Buses, and Leonarcos Property Group, and James Nicolau.
Teams on the park, preparing for second half kickoff. Welcome back, one and all, to Lakeside Stadium as the second half commences in this round 8 NPL Men's Victoria clash between South Melbourne and Dandenong City. If you are just joining us, first, welcome. Secondly, you join us at 1-1 with Timothy Atherinos putting South Melbourne in a 1-0 deficit early on in this contest with a well-placed effort into the bottom corner of the net for Dandenong City. But then, just before half-time, Robert Harding, having been subbed on in replacement of an injured Gustav Moller with a soaring header that put the hosts on level pegging heading into the break. My name is Joey Lynch. Thank you ever so much for joining us, no matter where you happen to be it Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, or indeed anywhere around the world. I am joined, by Ethan Rigg. On tonight's call is, Ethan, a first half in which, well, Dandy City, they had more shots. They split the honours on shots on target 2 apiece, but really, break it down, the visitors with the early momentum, but then South Melbourne, if not seizing control of the game, at least working their way back into it as it progressed.
It certainly was a seesaw of a first half. South Melbourne were caught out of the blocks and started rather slowly. Dandenong City enjoyed the lion's share of possession in the early 20 minutes and looked to create as many issues as possible, certainly in the first quarter of an hour. But as the half progressed, South Melbourne warmed into it on a rather chilly Melbourne Monday evening and found themselves level prior to the break, nearly in front as they had a couple of late looks before the half-time whistle sounded. With everything to play for, we are in for a truly enthralling second 45 minutes.
Indeed, as mentioned, one change made by South Melbourne, an injury-enforced one, albeit almost as good as a tactical one, as Harding almost immediately produced a goal for his side as Dandenong City win a free kick just on the edge of their penalty area. Other substitutes on the bench for South Melbourne: Zach Spiteri, George Mells, Charlie Leach, as well as Lucas Inglesi. For the visitors, Brad Plant, Jordan Gassim, Diego Cuba, George Lamataridis and Nathan Hancock available off the bench for coach Nick Tolios. Plant, Cuba and Hancock were all introduced off the bench last week in that 2-0 loss to Heidelberg United. Inglesi and Mells thrown in off the bench by Esteban Quintas last week in their 1-1 draw with Hume out in Broadmeadows. As Atherinos pulls up expecting a free kick, and he's awarded one by referee Jock Quartermain. Always an interesting area for a free kick here, Ethan. Probably too far out to score, but the central location of it makes it very difficult to find the teammate's head.
It certainly presents its own array of challenges, as usually they are taken short. But Dandenong City looking to continue in the vein that they open the match with as well. They want to start fast in this second half and put South Melbourne on the back foot, see if they can almost smash and grab a second goal and then sit in and soak up until the full-time whistle. But it'll be interesting to see as well what changes are made and who is introduced as this one drags on, and at the moment, if the stalemate isn't broken, how both sides look to put themselves back in front.
One would think if Dandy City are to get another go-ahead goal, the pressure would heap upon South Melbourne once more. As it currently stands on the live ladder with this point, South Melbourne sitting in 8th position. They entered the game in 10th. So drawing themselves above Green Gully and the Melbourne Knights. Dandy City, meanwhile, a point would take them out of the relegation zone as it stands, sending Melbourne Victory's youth down there in their stead. As the offside flag snuffs out a South Melbourne attack. Ball gets left behind. South Melbourne trying to come up with it in the form of Nicola. He loses his footing, but wins a free kick. So an opportunity for South Melbourne to shift territory, shift play into Dandenong City's defensive third. Jankovic up to take the free kick. Harding at the top of the box for South Melbourne. Group of 3 players at the back peg. That's where it's sent. Header back central by Marshall. Up for grabs. Ball now on the turf. Evans. High ball in, but Clark with the claim. And wanted to take it short to Corey Sewell. Instead, Dandy City will have to build from the back. Bit of pressure from South Melbourne in their attempts to impede them. Free kick given away by Pope. Giannakopoulos none too happy that he wasn't allowed to take it quickly. It was Nick Tolios over in the Dandy City dugout, arms in the air, because he did care. Play on is the call. Kim scanning, seeing where Harding was before getting it to Giannakopoulos. Bell was the intended recipient there, couldn't be found. Kim. Lino has gone up to occupy one of the wing slots. Bauer tucking in behind him. And it's the number 23, Bauer on the ball for Dandy City, central. Latham scanning around, looking to switch the play, instead setting it straight at Jordan Lampard. Chesnick, the intended recipient for Dandy City. Latham admonishing himself for the soft turnover in the middle of the park. Turnover. Harding come up with it for South Melbourne now. Andy Brennan. Sliding challenge, take the ball away from him. Max Mikola across to take. So, from a distance that will test every sinew of his arms as he looks to hurl this one in. Will take a big run up. You've got a big pack in there. Jankovic is forward. Archibald is forward. Marshall is in there, crowding that 6-yard box. Brennan at the top of the box. Ball comes in. Brennan nods it back. Up for grabs. Cleared away. Out for a corner, but these long throw-ins, it's not Jogger Bonita, Ethan, but it continues to be effective.
It certainly does continue to pose Dandenong City problems. They coped well enough in the first half when they were held up in that breeze a bit more, with them able to come in a bit flatter in this second 45. However, this is where the real problems could be posed, as Mikola can deliver them with a lot more pace and really test this defence. It was Giannakopoulos who got it best that time.
Mikola with the delivery. Again, Dandy City not able to clear initially. Eventually the ball careens out to Jack Pope. But his effort sails well wide and Dandy City see off the danger. The last time these two sides met here at Lakeside, it was a Brad Plant who popped up with an 87th minute winner for Dandenong City. He is on the bench as it stands. Can he come on and prove a similar sort of hero this time around? Can South Melbourne turn the tables and take the win? They have traditionally had the wood in this rivalry. They've only played 8 times, the first meeting back in 2017, that famous Doherty Cup clash in which South Melbourne won on a rip-roaring night, winning 5-4. Since then, South Melbourne, another 4 wins, 1 draw. Dandy City, just the 2 victories. Atherinos nods it on. Bauer can't get there before Jankovic's clearance, but Dandy City sending it straight back. Latham's going to give chase here, but he was doing so from an offside position.
It's better from Dandenong City, though. It's the first time they've been able to get into their groove in this second half. South Melbourne have certainly started brighter. They've reverted back to that back four instead of the three that they used towards the end of the first half. It might be just Esteban Quintas wanting to solidify and grow into the game once more, but this is a positive start from them.
High ball in. Painter Andrews flew for it and gave away a free kick as he did to take the specky, as it were, over Jackson Leno. Few protests, but nothing too vociferous from the South Melbourne players. Giannakopoulos turning, facing upfield before laying the ball off for Kim. Corey Sewell didn't like anything that he saw in front of him, so we'll go back to Webster. Giannakopoulos again. Ball in behind, foot race is on. Chesnick against Lampard. Lampard got a body into his man. Forgot to get the ball. No, it's going to be a South Melbourne free kick, is it? Looks like that's what it's going to be. Indeed it will be. So the Dandenong City attacker, just drawing the ire of Jock Quartermain over there on that far side of the pitch. South Melbourne, in the form of Javier Diaz-Lopez, will just be able to clear this ball away. That's going to bounce forward. Nodded on by Harding. Could have gone anywhere. Eventually it's going to come out to Brennan on that left-hand attacking flank, twisting and turning. Unable to beat Corey Sewell. Mikola charging him down. And at last taking a touch off the Queenslander. Actually, I think Sewell and Mikola are both Queenslanders. The last coming off Mikola, and it will be a goal kick. I mean, really, throw a rock in NPL Victoria, you'll hit a Queenslander. There's a lot of them down here. Meanwhile, a Tasmanian in Andy Brennan on the ball, knocking it forward, but unable to find a teammate. Andy Brennan, Ethan, he's certainly shown flashes of skill, has the veteran, every time he's got on the ball.
He's looked the most likely out of South Melbourne tonight. He's been brilliant. A lot of lovely touches, some good combinations with Lampard down that side. He's always looked to have a switcher play and an early ball in. All he needs is somebody to gamble, to be willing to make that early or later run towards the penalty spot. And he may be able to chalk up an assist, but also what you're seeing at the moment is two very different styles. Dandenong City looking to get on the ball through Giannakopoulos in particular a lot more, whereas South Melbourne happy to use that wind and let it loft over to put pressure on the back four, which will bring the likes of Brennan into the game a lot more.
Bit of combination play on this right will spring Harding. He was playing with Mikola. Atherinos for Dandenong City. Switch of play. Chesnick closed down rapidly, shaking off the first challenge, carrying it inside, knocking it across, but just behind his teammates. Dandy City, though, retaining possession. Leno. Kim. Bauer. Latham turning, thought about the shots. Kept it on the turf, and then the attempted 1-2 doesn't come off. Brennan trying to use his body to steer the play forward. Inaba having none of it as the turnover comes in, but sloppy passing from Dandenong City. Jankovic carrying the ball forward, then laying it off. Mikola, Jankovic continues his run, a big target in the box. Instead, looking for Harding. Inaba ensures there will be no repeat of his first half goal. Archibald nods it on. Second time once more. Lay it off. Cleared away from Dandenong City. Chesnick does well to get in the Latham, then it's a ball in behind Bauer. has taken it around Lopez. Open goal. Can he finish? Yes, he can. Dandenong City reclaim this lead on the hour mark at Lakeside Stadium.
And it is smash and grab on the counter-attack. It's beautifully worked. A lovely 1-2 between Chesnick and Latham, who did excellently to keep it in the first place. The ball is weighted perfectly for Bauer to break in behind. He has the composure to go round Lopez, and it's the calmest of finishes to give Dandenong City the lead once more. You might have to be able to say against the run of play.
And in a flash, the tide of this game and potentially these two sides' seasons turns once more. Dandenong City take a 2-1 lead on the hour mark, and in doing so move up to 7th on the live ladder, just a point back of 5th place Preston and 6th placed Hume. South Melbourne, meanwhile, fall to 12th on the table, into the relegation zone. Just 2 points clear of 13th placed Altona and 14th placed Port Melbourne. And that pressure that you have referred to, Ethan, that would have come with an early Dandenong City goal in this stanza, well, here it is. And we will now see if it becomes a crushing one for South Melbourne, as Painter Andrews prepares to hurl this ball in. Players assemble on the top of the 6-yard box. Clark doesn't come, and it's cleared away by Kim. Chesnick, clever flick. Latham. It's 3-on-2, 3-on-3 for Dandenong City. Pope did well. Latham, probably not the touch he would have wanted in South Melbourne. Clear the danger away.
Excellent challenge from Pope. He's been very tidy in his defensive recovery this evening. Just as when they look to go coast to coast once more and potentially add a 2-goal buffer, and it's those two again, Chesnick and Latham, who in the first quarter of an hour of this second half have been at the heart of everything good Dandenong City have done. You're right about the pressure heaping onto South Melbourne. Will Esteban Quintes go to his bench soon? If not, what have they got to draw themselves level?
South Melbourne now, if they cannot find an equaliser in this remaining 27 and a half minutes of regulation, plus whatever is added by the fourth official, their winless run would extend to 6, falling into the relegation zone. There is a healthy turnout in the President's Box tonight at Lakeside. What would the South Melbourne Heavies be thinking? Such a big season for them. Coming off a run to the semi-finals of the Australia Cup just a few months ago. Pushing MacArthur FC all the way, preparing to return to the national stage in the Australian Championship later this year. Really, their season turns on their last home game here at Lakeside against St Albans, resting players, fielding a rotated squad before they took on Preston. They lost that game and haven't won one since, as Lino flashes the attempt wide. Bauer, and I think it's Archibald, just having a bit of a conversation with the referee Jock Quartermain. One of the quirks of the fixture that South Melbourne's first 3 home games this campaign have all come against clubs founded by members of the Croatian diaspora. Melbourne Knights, St Albans, and now Dandy City. South Melbourne, as it stands, going 1 win, 2 losses in those games. Nodded forward to Clark. We'll just keep it on the turf for now, and then pick it up after teasing Harding with it. No, well, Ethan, putting yourselves in the shoes of Esteban Quintes now as we approach the 65th minute mark of this game, how are you looking to get your side into it? You've seen how you've attacked, the different methods. You've seen how Dandenong City defend. What are you doing?
You're looking to add a bit more creativity and a bit more spark, certainly in midfield. And maybe the chance for an introduction of somebody like George Mells to create a few more problems for Dandenong City, as they seem more comfortable now than they did in the early exchanges of defending longer balls into the channel, and are happier to drop a few more yards with that breeze.
Oh, Clark! Magnificent! Getting enough on it to keep it out. Max Mikkeler arriving at the back peg. Almost should have been two there, but some heroics from Pierce Clark.
Super save. Once again from Clark. That's the second time he's been unbelievable when it comes to it.
Now called into action again. Got the punch on it. He goes to the turf. And it's going to be a corner kick. You're right, Ethan. South Melbourne forcing Clark into some spectacular saves tonight as well. They did hit the post in that opening stanza as well. As they sends this corner into the top of the 6-yard box. Players fly. Falls to Brennan. Deflected away for a corner. And I guess, Ethan, it's just one of those things that can happen when you're on a winless run. All of a sudden, your shots hit the post. The opposition keeper turns into Lev Yashin every time you come forward. Just nothing goes your way. As I'll get your thoughts on that after Andy Brennan preparing to take this corner. Low one, delivered to the near post. Couldn't beat the first defender. Brennan can have another go, but this time under pressure from Giannakopoulos. And turning over to Valley Chesnick. But yeah, South Melbourne, fortune hasn't smiled upon them either tonight, hasn't it, Ethan?
It certainly haven't, and it can be a cruel game sometimes when it is not going your way. And South Melbourne are certainly feeling that this evening so far. They've hit the post. Clark has made two unbelievable stops out of pure reflex and incredible judgment. They haven't been short of chances, which is something promising for them, as defensively Dandenong City have been relatively solid so far. They've had a couple of problems, especially when the ball's been played out to Brennan. He's looked the most likely. And if they are to find themselves level and hopefully start to turn the grass a bit greener towards their side, they'll need to get him involved even more than they have so already.
South Melbourne coming forward once more. Brennan turns on the Jets, finds space on that left flank. Still going, cut back, Max Mikkeler. Straight at Pierce Clark. Had time to tee things up, did the South attacker, but sent it straight at the keeper, who is furious in the aftermath because he ran all the way to the top of his box and then got cleaned up as he cleared.
He got clipped, and they're all not happy. Plenty of protests for those in Dandenong City White, and they have a fairly good case. Pierce Clark, after making a simple stop from a dangerous South Melbourne attack, looked to gain a few yards and go quickly on the counter-attack, but it was impeded as he looked to clear. Nothing doing as those appeals fall on deaf ears, but Dandenong City at the moment, you sense, are just trying to hang in there, as they did after they went a goal up, and trying to weather the current South Melbourne storm.
And Ethan, I know it's very easy for us to say here in our commentary position, unencumbered by defenders and the like, as Painter Andrews slices that one very high and very wide. Very easy for us to say, and we're nowhere near as good footballers as him, but disclaimers out of the way. Should Max Mikkeler have done better with that?
He should have scored, potentially, if not at least forced Clark into a much better save than the one he ended up making. Andy Brennan does brilliantly to skip by two down that touchline. The cutback is perfect. It's got a great weight on it and sits up nicely for him. He just scuffs the shot, doesn't quite catch it as cleanly as he would like. It's a big chance, you have to say that, and certainly a huge way and a huge opportunity missed for South Melbourne to get themselves level.
Diaz Lopez boots the ball forward, and Harding bringing it down in an offside position. Just unable to time his run. Has been lively since he's come on, has Robert Harding, but now he's tasked with finding another equaliser, as we see Valley Chesnick making way for Dandenong City. He's set to be replaced by Brad Plant. Well, we talked about how he popped up with what was the winning goal
for
in Dandenong
City.
City's last visit to Lakeside. He's not required to do that at this point.
13, Bali Sesnik. And coming on, number 7, Brad Plant.
However, as he moves to the tip of Dandenong's City spear for what is just his second appearance of the campaign. 8 minutes off the bench last week represented his first of the 2025 season. Can he find a way to add a third as Dandenong City come forward, opening up the angle, cleared away. Jackson Lino trying to make a mischief of himself at the top of the box. South cleared away, and now maybe some space for them to exploit on this flank. Danny Kim was getting back to plug the hole. Painter Andrews, switch of play, looking for Brennan. He brings it down. He's got Atherinos keeping in company. He lays it off. Ball in, low along the turf. Dandenong City clearing away. And up come Marshall and Yankovic. So here we go. Everybody, assume your places. Another long South Melbourne throw-in inbound. For all his heroics, Clark potentially has struggled with a few of these as he's called into action once more, and that, well, ends up being his most comfortable collection of one of these attempts of the evening.
He claimed confidently on that occasion. And Dandenong City are just trying to make this scrappy for South Melbourne at the moment, who are going to Andy Brennan more and more, looking to provide a quality ball into the box. Lampard had the opportunity. Didn't quite get the loft on it that he might have wanted. But Brad Plant being introduced and immediately in the action. He had a drive, not asked to win the game this time round, but might be asked to seal it for Dandy City. As Chesnick, who it's safe to say has had a brilliant game, looked very lively on the counter, looked calm in possession and was certainly a handful in the first half. Has made way. Spears Clark goes into the book for a bit of time wasting.
As you do, as you do. Brad Plant, the 28-year-old attacker, scored 3 goals in 4 appearances for Dandenong City last season after joining from Scarborough Athletic in England. Unable to keep that one in. South Melbourne preparing a change.
Substitution for South Melbourne FC coming off number 27, Jack Painter Andrews coming on. Number 2, Zach Spiteri.
There you go. If you didn't hear the ground announcer, it is Jack Painter Andrews making way for Zach Spiteri. Got 90 minutes against St Albans, that 3-0 loss back in round 4. That was his only other appearance of the season, so game number 2 for Zach Spiteri in 2025 coming up. He has just about 17 odd minutes plus added time to make something of this game. Press his case for further minutes in the weeks ahead. South Melbourne will be on the road next week, heading to face the Altona Magic at Paisley Park on Saturday evening. Dandenong City, they're back at Frank Holohan Soccer Complex, hosting the league leaders, Avondale FC, on Friday night. So ball lofted forward towards Bauer. Then Plant brings it down, gets round 1. Well marshalled off the ball though before he could find a teammate or look to shoot. Webster, Kim, around the corner first time. Plant. Bauer slipped in behind. First touch, not the best. Plant on the cutback, blocked off the line. And then across the face of goal. That one wouldn't have counted for offside, but some heroic defending at the last for South Melbourne denies Brad Plant and keeps them in the game.
How on earth did he not score? Brad Plant, he does everything right. Takes it on the turn and drives, waits the ball perfectly to Bauer, who despite a loose touch recovers well to cut it back It's the easiest for him to come onto. And it would have been 3-1, all but for an unbelievable block on the line that may well just keep South Melbourne in this.
Indeed, like Max Mikula just a few minutes ago, perhaps Plant kicking himself for an opportunity to change this game, only to be denied at the last. That'll be a handball against Archibald, completely inadvertent, but them's the breaks. Latham sending it out to that right flank. Corey Sewell, Kim. Indeed, if Dandenong City can get another one now with less than 15 minutes of regulation, you feel as though that would be curtains for South Melbourne's hopes. They enter tonight with just 8 goals to their name this season, which was the equal third fewest in the league. So they've now got the 4th fewest with 9, but still haven't exactly been lethal in front of goals in 2025. Dandenong City, meanwhile, maintaining that undefeated record on the road, the Road Warriors. As Archibald couldn't get on the end of that one, watches it sail over his head. They don't need face paint, they don't need pads with spikes on them, they just need the 3 points to these Road Warriors. That's an 80s wrestling reference, Ethan, probably a bit before your time. What a rush. Do you get it?
I don't know.
Oh, God, I'm so old. Ball back to Lopez. His attempted clearance only as far as Lino. Ooh, bit of space here for South Melbourne to operate in on this left flank. Spiteri, newly introduced, can't find a way past his marker, but corner kick. And here we go. Set pieces have looked South's most likely avenue to goals, Ethan, and they have another one.
They've certainly looked the most threatening from these set pieces tonight, and it was a good bit of play. They caught Corey Sewell out, probably for the first time this evening. And Spiteri had a bit of joy as cross deflected.
As the ball is sent in, sent towards the near post, looking for a flick on. Marshall battling with Archibald. Pair still going, that will be a free kick. "78 minutes about to have expired here at Lakeside Stadium. Dandenong City on the verge of an important win, one that will send them up to 7th. South Melbourne staring down the barrel of the relegation zone, albeit only 8 games in, but it's an area you don't want to be in ever. What would make it 6 games without a win for South Melbourne if they fall to defeat in this one? Well, it will be 6 games without a win for them unless they're able to find 2 quick-fire goals late. Of course, they did get that late equaliser in the first half through Harding and came very close to adding another one before time expired. So, never say never.
It's become scrappy again as South Melbourne are trying to look for this equaliser, and it's playing into Dandenong City's hands. They're happy to reload and keep the ball over on the far side from us as much as possible. As it just ensures precious time leaks away. And as the game stop-starts, it takes longer for South Melbourne to get into their groove and may open up chances for them.
Here comes Dandy City once more. Giannakopoulos off the post. The frame of the goals keeping South alive. Thomas Giannakopoulos. So close to killing this game off.
He's desperately unlucky. Giannakopoulos, and he would have deserved it. He's been excellent tonight. He does everything right, and he catches it sweet as well. Lopez beats him, but unfortunately the woodwork isn't, and it bounces the wrong way for Dandenong City. And with just over 10 minutes to go, had that found the back of the net, you sensed it would have iced this one.
As Dundee City preparing to make a couple of changes, it's Nathan Hancock and George Lambadaridis preparing to come on in this game. Waiting to see who will make way. Jamie Latham, one of them.
Substitution for Dandenong City coming off number 5.
Jack Webster, the other one.
Coming on number 28, Nathaniel Hancock. Coming off number 8, Jamie Latham. Coming on number 25, George Lambadaridis.
So Nathaniel Hancock, former South Melbourne man, signs this season from Port Melbourne by Dandenong City. He goes back into the back four. Lambadaridis will be a bit further up the park, one expects. Oh, goes down! Appeals for a penalty, vociferous appeals for a penalty. Max Mikkeler insisting he was yanked down. We'll get your thoughts on that one, Ethan, in a second. Jock Quartermain didn't think it was a penalty. Meanwhile, players are live through Ross Archibald. All right, here we go, Ethan, on the spot. Penalty or no?
He may have had a case. There was definitely contact. I don't know if it was enough to warrant a penalty, but you do see a tug on the shirt. Does he go down maybe a touch too easily? That might be the only thing weighing on the referee's mind that altered his decision. But there certainly is a case to be made. I'm going to go with no, though.
There we go. Of course, no VAR in NPL Men's Victoria. The closest thing we have is people on their phones here at the grounds replaying the YouTube stream to have a look. South Melbourne now, though. Opportunity for Max Mikkeler once more to hurl something in towards the top of that 6-yard box. Clark stays on his line, trusts his defence, and they get it away. At least initially, Spiteri lofted it up. Potential push there by Harding on his man. Didn't come off. Well, wasn't called by the referee. Much to Clark's continued protestations, even though he has a goal kick.
Corey Saul actually does very well to win that goal kick as well. Just ushers the ball out of play when it could have so easily been a corner for South Melbourne and another opportunity to load that box. The first time tonight that Dundee City haven't really dealt with that second ball all that well, and it put them under pressure. I think Clark did the right thing staying on his line. That defence was too deep for him to come and claim without too much congestion, and in the end, they see it through well enough.
There's Andy Brennan unable to keep that one in. So Dandenong City have the ball and will be able to take a few more precious seconds off the clock. 83 minutes has passed us by at Lakeside Stadium. And it is Dandenong City holding on to a 2-1 lead. It was Tim Atherinos who opened the scoring. It was Robert Harding then coming off the bench for South Melbourne in place of the injured Gustav Moller. And equalising before Will Bauer put Hajduk ahead once more as we see more changes coming from Dandenong City. Jordan Gassim entering the fray into the midfield. Coming on in place of the goal scorer, Atherinos.
Substitution for Dandenong City coming off number 7, Danny Kim. 17, Danny Kim. Coming on number 20, Jordan Gassim.
It will also be Diego Cuba coming on, replacing Danny Kim. So Nick Tolios has emptied his bench, apart from backup goalkeeper Matt Maroon. So all hands on deck to defend this 2-1 lead. And players going here, there and everywhere because there's been a foul by South Melbourne, much to the disappointments of the Clarendon Corner and the home fans.
They're not happy about it. Dandenong City will be, as any time South Melbourne have looked to build any sort of pressure this evening. There's been a quick release for those in white, whether it be on the break or whether it be another free kick just to stop play. And with the bench being emptied, it could just be to have the legs to see this one through, to be able to keep up with pace, potentially nick a third on the break if it presents itself. However, it does look like Dandenong City will be shutting up shop for the evening, unless it's on the counter.
It was Gaku Inaba and Nathaniel Hancock that went down like sacks of potatoes, but they're now back on their feet to defend this one, as Archibald, with a clever flick in the Mikkola direction, cleared away by Hajduk. Archibald won't repeat what he said, but he wanted a free kick, let's just say that. Harding. Back to Morgan Evans, looking up, trying to just place something in behind for the run of Mikkola, but it gets away from him. There we go, 86 minutes expired on this electronic scoreboard at Lakeside Stadium. The hosts South Melbourne in a 2-1 deficit against Dandenong City. They are the ones that are coming, though. They have pinned their ears back. Coming together there between Jankovic and the newly introduced Diego Cuba. South Melbourne has the ball and they'll play it quickly out to the left flank. Pope lets it run. Finds Morgan Evans. He's got some space in front of him. Ball to the top of the box. Where's it going to land? With Brennan. He plays it backwards. All hands on deck for Dandy City. 11 men behind the ball. Jankovic got his feet caught up underneath him, and now he's going to be dispossessed. And then in his desperation to get back, he's going to give away the free kick and earn himself a yellow card. Will the South skipper trying to pull Jordan Gassim to his feet? Jordan doesn't appreciate it, let's just say.
It takes all the pressure off Dandenong City as well, doesn't it? Jankovic just can't get it out from under his feet. And then it's a clumsy foul to prevent the break. Had to be done. However, you can feel the frustration and the desperation sitting in for South Melbourne now. Dandenong City, since they're nearly there. And for those in blue, the kitchen sink is about to be thrown. They have 3 minutes, just under, plus stoppage time, to salvage something from this game. It is now or never.
Quintas, Esteban Quintas acting as ball kid on the halfway line. South Melbourne take it quickly. Stolen away by Dandy City. Ball up for grabs. Bauer shakes off one challenge. Steaming forward. Do they go for goal or do they go for the corner? They're going to go for goal to kill the game. Rest in peace, this contest. Dandenong City 3, South Melbourne 1. And it is that man, Brad Plants, on the break that does it.
For the second time in 2 years, he has earned Dandenong City all 3 points at the Lakeside, you would assume. And they timed it to perfection on the break. The ball was brilliant. The finish showed so much composure, and that has been the difference this evening. Plant calm and just slid it to Javi Lopez's left. Nothing he could do. But for Dandenong City, what a crucial 3 points these could turn out to be. And for South Melbourne, they are staring ever further into the abyss that is the drop zone.
South Melbourne now abandoning all pretenses, just getting that ball long, hoping for some kind of miracle. With just 40 seconds of regulation remaining, they find themselves in 12th place on the ladder. Remember, it's 3 up, 3 down this year in the Victorian top flight, a new addition to the competition this season. Their goal difference also now -5. 9 goals scored, 14 against. -5, the same figure that 13th place Altona has, 2 points back of them. And well, all of a sudden, Ethan, South Melbourne's trip to face the Altona Magic next week takes on a vastly different dimension.
I don't think they would have envisioned their trip to Paisley Park being a relegation 6-pointer already at this stage in the season, but it looks that way. It does not make for pretty reading for any of those here tonight at the Lakeside or anybody connected with Hellas. They have a free kick at the moment and perhaps an opportunity prior to the 6 minutes of stoppage time that we've now entered to have a late scare.
Ball headed away to the top of the box. Brennan. Ball sent back from whence it came. It's 2-on-2 here in the race to get there in transition. Spiteri wins it, knocks it forward. Brennan. Ball to the top of the box, headed away. South have the numbers. Spiteri. Archibald. To Brennan, closed down. Lino just has it deflect off him. Out for a corner. So a real sense of restlessness and agitation from these South Melbourne fans as Brennan lofts it in. Marshall's header. Yankovic's there on the goal line. Archibald's there too. But he's just going to lift it over the bar, and I think it was going to be a free kick. And here we go. Frustration boiling over for both of these sides. There's been some fierce battles in that 6-yard box throughout the evening. Some physicality dished out from both sides, and well, bubbling over there.
It's shown glimpses of doing that at times this evening in and of itself. And you just had to wait for the frustration, all of that angst from a night of true importance as a red card is brandished.
Is that for Clark? No. Yes.
I believe it might
Yankovic.
be Marko Yankovic.
And he's handing it to Marshall, so it indeed is the South Melbourne skipper. I think that's for his second yellow of the game, so he is sent off. Commiseration sent his way by Nick Tolios. So South, well, they're going to lose this game, most likely by a 3-1 goal score line. They're going to fall into the drop zone. And now for that relegation 6-pointer, it's too early to call it a relegation 6-pointer, but we can pretend, will be without their skipper. So a night goes from bad to worse for Esteban Quintas, who indeed might begin to start feeling, well, there's always pressure when you're South Melbourne coach Ethan, but even more so might be feeling just a bit of pressure at this point. We talked about how big of a season this is for South Melbourne.
He certainly will be feeling the heat after tonight. Will Esteban Quintas, after this performance in a game which is so crucial and a really sour end with a sending off, turning next week's trip to Altona into a must-win. But you're right with how important this season is for South Melbourne, with how much they wanted to use it as a building block from last season's relatively successful year. The pressure has never been higher. The expectation has never been higher. And you can feel it throughout this ground. At points this evening, but certainly now. They are all, even those out there, are feeling the heat.
South Melbourne Another late attack from the hosts. Their hope will be, of course, that still at this early stage of the season, the table very compact. One win can reset the narrative completely. Big punch from Clark to get the ball to the top of the box. 6-game winless run, however, will generate angst no matter which side you are, as Dandy City, well, they've got numbers on the break. They're going to go for goal again. Bauer out to the corner. Giannakopoulos thought about the shot, squares it. It's going to be turned in, but turned in from an offside position. So it will not be 4-1. South immediately getting the ball away, but Dandy City looking to feast upon South's desperate attempts to get back into this one in transition.
They are looking to bask in South Melbourne misery. And they flooded forward in their droves. They didn't quite get the counter-attack at their clinical best as they've showcased this evening. But this time round, I feel as though they may be let off, as it may matter not. They've been brilliant. They've made it difficult for South Melbourne to really get into their groove, bar a 15-minute flurry prior to half-time. They've shown composure, and it's been a very professional performance. As the full-time whistle sounds at Lakeside, you can hear the reception. Dandenong City's brilliant away run continues. It is now 4 in a row unbeaten, and back-to-back victories at the home of South Melbourne as they climb their way up the table and leave the hosts in the mire that is the bottom 3. There will be nothing but joy for their trip back to Dandenong this evening. For South Melbourne, many, many questions to answer. In what is a big season, it hasn't quite got off to the start they would hope. Full time at the Lakeside Stadium. South Melbourne 1, Dandenong City 3.
As the morose tones of the ground announcer would have hinted at, not the evening South Melbourne would have planned for. It was Tim Atherinos putting Dandenong City ahead in this one. Robert Harding coming off the bench and tying things up once more, but then it was Will Bauer in transition that restored Hajduk to the lead, and then off the bench himself, Brad Plant against in transition, sealing it, putting the cherry on the Dandenong City Sunday to seal this result. The hosts, they fall down to 12th on the table. Dandenong City up to 7th, just 1 point back of the top 6, eyeing off a place in the playoffs, albeit probably the stiffest test in Victorian football awaits them next week against Avondale. South Melbourne, that trip to Paisley Park to take on the Altona Magic, in which, at this stage of the season, maybe we start to float around with the idea of must-win games for South Melbourne already. But that was all that was written here at Lakeside Stadium. I've been joined by Ethan Rigg. My name has been Joey Lynch. It's been an absolute pleasure to have your company here on the NPL Victoria YouTube page. As a reminder, you can catch every game of the NPL Men's Victoria YouTube season on the NPL Men's Victoria season on the NPL Victoria YouTube page. Can't get my words out, it's been that sort of night. As well as every game of the NPL Women's Victoria season, Australia Cup preliminary round fixtures, Doherty Cup fixtures, Nike FC Cup fixtures, and some Brucey bonuses along the way. Be a friend, tell a friend, get them subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed as well. But tonight, from Lakeside Stadium, as we see the South players trudge over to acknowledge their home support, it has been South Melbourne 1, Dandenong City 3. Thanks and success.